Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Tim Cullings, the Executive Director of Global Game Jam, and today we're going to be presenting Ask Me Anything session with members of our Board of Directors. Joining us today, we will have Sabrina, Ariella, Felix, and JC. Welcome to the stream.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
Just introducing everybody. Maybe we can just go around and say hi and give a little background on yourself and who you are. And start with Sabrina since she's next to me.
Okay, hi. I'm Sabrina Solba. I am a game designer. I've worked in the industry since 2005, mostly doing video games for most of that time, but now I work primarily on board games. I've also been involved with Global Game Jam for quite a while. I started out as jammer, then a site organizer in Pittsburgh, where I'm based, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, USA. And then I started doing regional organizing with Global Game Jam and helped run the regional organizer team for a number of years. And now I'm on the board. And I'm also an executive committee member for Global Game Jam.
I'm Ariella Lehrer. I've been in the games business probably more than 35 years, I hate to admit. I have been CEO of Legacy Games, a small indie game development company, for 25 years, starting in January. So that's been a long time. I've also headed up some other small companies during that time and have a lot of knowledge of what it is like to head up a small indie game development company. Marketing, sales, distribution is what we focus on now, and really want to lend my expertise to anyone who's interested in making games for a living.
Are you in clockwise? Then it's JC now.
I don't know. I can just go. Sure. Hi, I'm JC Lau. I am currently the president of the board at Global Game Jam. When I'm not being president of the board of Global Game Jam, I am a senior producer at Probably Monsters, which is a new AAA studio in Seattle. I became acquainted with Global Game Jam first as a jammer many years ago when I was actually leaving academia, and I was just like, I want to go make games and learn how to make games. And GGJ was a great place to learn how to do that. And on the basis of that, I actually got my first job into the industry. So I started in QA at Bungie, but it was like on the strength of like what I had done in GGJ, and then I made my way through the industry, and now I am a producer here. So yeah, I don't know what else I need to introduce myself with, so I'm going to stop talking and hand it over to Felix.
Thank you. I mean, whatever else they want to know, they can ask, right? I'm Felix Hilgard. I am originally from Germany, most recently based in Cologne, but I have now moved to the US. I'm based in San Francisco now. I'm a video games lawyer. Haven't made any games yet myself, haven't participated in a jam, but friends of mine that were on the board previously thought that a European lawyer on the board could add a perspective. So that's why they asked. And of course, I couldn't say no to this opportunity. So I'm really happy to be part of this group and curious about everyone's questions.
Yeah, absolutely. We're fortunate to have such a varied background, people from such a varied backgrounds on the board, and it's just an amazing experience in the games industry to lend all their talent to what we're trying to do here and create a great community and event for people to participate in all over the world. We all really are passionate about the events and feel the same way about it as you do, all of you out there who are hosting sites and getting ready to host your version of GGJ in 2023, which is coming up at the end of January and early February. We're excited about that and looking forward to answering any questions you might have about how we run things here, what the board does actually, and what they're trying to do for Global Game Jam. So yeah, that's what we're doing here today. We have a question here that I can pop up. Digital Monkey Master says, Felix, you mentioned you haven't made any games or participated in a jam before. Are there any things in particular that stop you from participating in some capacity?
Well, the only thing that might stop me is that I can't code. But, well, I mean, I played around with BASIC on MS-DOS back in the day, way back in the day. I did try to make a game, but that never got past, a few rooms of a dungeon. And then that was the end of my coding skills. But to be honest, I had not really thought much about it or heard or interacted with Global Game Jam until a former board member who was also a lawyer or ran in games law circles tapped me for it. So no, I guess there's not anything specific that's stopping me from it. Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to have the time to participate in next year's, but I'm definitely going to go and check it out and see all of you making games in San Francisco.
Yeah, and we have a few different partners coming on this year that are like no code solutions for making games, like Dot Big Bang and Yahaha and a couple others that lets anybody jump in and start making games without having any kind of coding background, and it's all
I might try my
UI, so. GGJ is a great place to start it as well. And yeah, somebody mentions board games as well. You can make paper prototypes. A lot of people do that at Global Game Jam. Those are always some fun ones.
Yeah, I will also say my first game that I made was in Twine, which is Twine is a online tool. It's free. You can use it for making narrative games. It's basically like making a choose your own adventure. You can make it more or less complex. And I think the first game I made was like the gameplay loop was like about 10 seconds long. It was just go here, interact with the thing, click on some things. But then from there you can grow it. Like, so it actually became an interactable puzzle game, like, in the spirit of like Monkey Island and that sort of stuff. But you can start as small as you want for Global Game Jam, which is like one of my favorite things about it. It's like, as a producer, I always have to tell people to scope this stuff back. But with Global Game Jam, like if you're starting and learning how to jam and how to make a game, you can start as tiny as you want. And there's room for everybody to be able to do that, which is great.
Yeah. The first Global Game Jam I hosted, somebody made a edible game, Jen, who's based here in Seattle. And that was like, I was like, okay, this event is really cool if people are coming up with ideas like that. And I've been on board ever since. So we had a question here from Mr. Whitehawk. How does GGJ decide on the themes? I don't know which one of you all wants to take that question, or I can answer if you want.
You might be the best person to field it. I know we have a theme committee.
Yeah. So Global Game Jam has a theme committee to decide our theme, and it's usually different every year. It's people from all over the world that volunteer for Global Game Jam and are interested in being a part of it. And they go through like a month or two long process of submitting ideas, nominating them, voting on them, having meetings to talk about, which the ones they like, which ones are going to translate well to, multiple different languages, since this is a global event and people don't all speak the same language. And so there's a lot of different considerations that go into choosing the theme, and we try to keep it, different enough year to year, so it's not going to be too similar to one that we've had before, and try to keep it unique from other large game jam events that are out there that, where their themes are publicly known as well. So that's more or less how that process works, and they're in the process now of deciding the theme for GGJ 2023, and I've seen some exciting ideas come through already, so I'm looking forward to what they select. And they always do a great job and come up with something fun and interesting to spark people's creativity. And anybody is welcome to apply to join the theme committee as well, and we do that, around after the jam is over, this year's jam.
Yeah, that's you can fill out the post-jam survey and check a box for the ways you'd like to get involved. Just plug the post-jam survey, which we love to get the feedback through that, but it's also a great way to say, I'm interested in theme committee or being a regional organizer, which trains site organizers, or any other way you can get involved. Translation committee.
For sure, yeah. A question from Yared. I'm Yared, a GGJ regional organizer for Central and East Africa. I have a concern on how we can make the effort more visible to make it more valuable. I want to hear your thought about that.
Well, this is part of it. We've been on the board. We've been talking quite a bit about how we can use different channels and different formats and different types of content to get the word out about GGJ. And so we thought this would be a good one for people who want to learn about what it is. And we are ramping up our efforts in various other social media. So whether that's Instagram for the more fun content, or LinkedIn for to really connect with other people who are in the business of making games. There's been more content there lately than more than we've done before. And so that's how we do get the word out. And then also, I guess we rely on everyone in the community to share and interact with that content. That's going to make it more visible for everybody else. And we're always open for suggestions. If you have a great idea of what would work in your specific corner of the world, we don't necessarily know. I mean, we don't necessarily know. We don't know at all certain things that might work that are very specific to certain parts of the world and certain cultures. So if you say, well, you should do this, and that would really make a difference in my corner of the world, please let us know about it. And if we can, we will.
Yeah, I also want to add, one of the things internally that we do on the board is we have subcommittees. So different board members are parts of different subcommittees focusing on things that we want to drive forward for Global Game Jam. And one of the subcommittees that we do have is one that's focused on expansion to specifically outside of the US and Western Europe. So it is something we have thought about. The methods that Felix has mentioned are things that we have considered as great opportunities to connect other parts of the GGJ community, but we are looking specifically to focus on areas that have been traditionally underrepresented in Global Game Jam. So it is something we are definitely thinking about, and we have been looking at strategies for how we can connect to communities in those areas and find opportunities for support and funding and having more sites and making sure those areas are also elevated to the same level that some of the more popular or more commonly known jam locations are. So we have people that are equitably also making games in the sense that you have the right resources, you have the right knowledge, you have this is why we have the training materials that we've put on the website. These are things that we can do to enable that everyone can make games regardless of where they are.
Would it be appropriate to let people know they could contact Tarja, the woman who works for Global Game Jam and is in charge of marketing? And Tarja has a plan, a proposal for next year for how we can get the word out even more. I think she's done a terrific job this year. This is my first year on the board, and I have seen her posts on social media and the monthly newsletter, all of that stuff accelerate in exposure. And so anyway, she's putting together some ideas for the board about how we can even expand further our marketing efforts. And I know I'd be very interested in any ideas people have about that as we consider, we don't have many resources as a nonprofit, but we can do a better job allocating our resources, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And this year we're partnering with the Xbox Global Expansion team in Nigeria to do some more outreach to folks in that area. So that's going to go a long way. They have substantial more resources than we do as a nonprofit. So hopefully that will help get some more attention on the developers there and get the word out about the event. And you had said potentially having a mini exhibition and giving out certificates. We do have certificates for participants in GGJ, and those will be available to organizers very soon. And yeah, I like the idea of mini exhibitions. We do stuff like that here in Seattle, where I'm based, after the jam, to let people kind of come and see the games that were made at our site. So those are both good ideas. Yeah, so thanks for that question. We have another question from Twitch. I've been organizing a location for several years, but I don't know the history of GGJ. Where can I consult it? We do have that information on our website, but I think Sabrina's probably got the longest tenure of all of us. Can maybe speak a little bit more about that.
I don't know if I want to tell the origin story in too much detail since I wasn't part of it. Like I jammed during the first year and then quickly got pulled in to do site organizing, but I wasn't really on the main, like involved with the executive committee and the board in the beginning. But there is a history page, I think, on the globalgamejam.org webpage that kind of goes over it. But there was a small group of people who came together to create this idea, and it kind of grew. I don't know if anybody expected it to be as big as it's become. It feels like it's just continued to grow over the years. But I know Susan Gold, probably Gorm. I don't know everyone's name, so I hesitate to try to tell the story with incomplete information. But there is some history on the website we can share. Find a link to.
Yeah, I posted that in chats. Fawad and a few others were involved in it. But yeah, it grew out of kind of the academic beginnings and has grown into what it is today. Thanks to all of you out there who are helping us make it bigger and better each year. You can consult the history section on our website, as we mentioned. Ryan asks, how do you think game jams help developers to integrate more and new ideas into future games, like combining genres? Anyone have any thoughts about that?
So I can speak to this a little. Just in my own experience, one of my favorite things about game jams is that they have this very low risk bar to entry for trying new things. So you're making a very small project. You are working with a team of people who you may or may not have worked with before. You will have to figure out what roles you're doing, and it's a really great place to experiment. And part of the mission for Global Game Jam is to make sure that people can be creative and can try new things and can learn new things. And so it's this really great place to just try new things, like just match up two genres, see if it works, like see what that gameplay loop is like. You can try, like I've seen people just be like, what if, and then just randomly pick two things like Metroidvania and I don't know, like first person shooter, and smush those together and see what happens, or 3D puzzle game and something else. But the idea here is you can take what you know about games, like be it genres or specific mechanics or a particular art style or whatever, and you can try putting different things together and see what sticks. And because you're doing this in a very brief amount of time, you're doing this in a on a team where you're all working really closely together, your iteration loops for how long it takes you to get to doing something that you like or don't like or think is fun or not fun is really quick. So that's one of my favorite things about game jams, and just being able to try out these new things. So yeah, you've got plenty of opportunities for doing that, and I do know that there have been things that might have come out of Global Game Jam that seemed like kind of weird at the time, but actually turned out to be like commercially successful. So I'm thinking, like, if everyone remembers Surgeon Simulator from a few years back, this was like one of my favorite games. But that was a Global Game Jam game, and it just kind of caught on and became this thing that spawned this whole new weird physics genre. But it was like the space for that was what was important, and making sure people had the opportunity to try stuff out.
I also think it's a great place for people who are new to the industry, or for people who wouldn't normally get to collaborate, to get together. Even coming from outside the industry, I've jammed with folks who weren't in the game industry from day to day, but they were just had art skills or music skills, and they just wanted to come together. And that's a great place to get new ideas and to get people to try things outside of the well-tread design spaces for games. And that's another advantage that game jams can bring.
Yeah, and there's not the pressure to like ship something or try to make something commercially successful. You're just here to have fun and experiment and learn and try new things. And it's not a competition, so it's just like a great place to, if you have an idea, like just give it out and see what happens and see if people like it. I mean, that's all you can. That's what we're here for, and that's what we encourage people to do. Just step outside your comfort zone a little bit and try something new. So yeah, thanks for the great questions. Keep them coming. We have another one here from Twitch. How do you help teams progress after the jam, if that's something you help with, i.e. taking projects from jam hobby to commercial level? I can say that's like not something we intend to do, but it does happen sometimes. We had last year, or this past year, we've had a micro grant program from a company called Endless, where they were helping fund educational games that were mostly made at Global Game Jam or our partner jams. So we helped give people a little extra money to take their games further that they made at the jam. And then the local organizers always tend to have connections that can help people that are interested in making their games more commercially viable. And we also have our GDC Scholars program, where people that are volunteer or participate in Global Game Jam can apply for a scholarship, which gives them an all-access pass to GDC. And a lot of them come and bring the games that they've worked on at the jam, or games that they worked on with people that they met at the jam, to get a chance to promote those at GDC. I don't know if anyone has anything else they want to add to that.
And then also I would say, I mean, there's always a ton of sponsors. Like we've got Unity as a sponsor, we've got Google as a sponsor, we've got a bunch of, so keep your eyes open for that. If there's a representative from the sponsor there, go talk to them. And even if not, reach out to them and say, hey, you sponsored the jam that I made this game at. And it's going to give you a conversation starter for someone. But just generally, keep your eyes open and make sure you talk to everyone. And those networks that you build, you may not get something out of that the next day. And that's not the point of the network. But the more you do it, the more you'll know someone that will be able to connect you to someone or give you some helpful hints. GGJ as an organization is not an incubator or an accelerator or something like that to make all those games commercial, and a lot of them probably never will be, but it's a good stepping stone on the way there.
I know before I joined the GGJ that I went on the website and I looked at some of the old games, and I wanted to see the types of games that people were creating. And I think that if you create a game that you're really proud of and you think it represents some new thinking or innovation, it's a great idea to make sure that people know in various companies, this is what you've done, and this is what you would like to build on to a fully commercial game. I think GGJ does a good job of exposing your game to the larger public, but then you need to take the extra steps to make sure it gets in front of people who would be interested. But it's a great first starter in the industry. I mean, in today's world, at least for me and our small company, I'm looking for people who have created games, whether it's just part of their portfolio and something they did at school, more so than any. I want direct experience, that shows what you can do. So I think the jams give you a great opportunity, to get a foothold in the industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Ariella said, whenever people ask, how do I get my start in the industry, it's just make something is usually the answer. And having that experience and that opportunity at Global Game Jam is to make something and have it publicly available and be able to show people that you did make something and you can do it like that. That's really helpful to get you started on your way to a career in the industry if that's what you're looking for. So
the other thing I also want to mention here is you're making when you make a game jam game, like there is a sense that your game is done for the game jam, but that does not prevent you from working on the game later. Like some of the things that I've seen people make, and I've also had the fortune of being able to mentor student teams as they go through Global Game Jam. I've seen people work on their game for years after their initial, tiny little game that they made for Global Game Jam is done. And that's one of the things that's really wonderful about game development is there is always room for iteration and improving your game. And if you come out of Global Game Jam and you have a prototype and you want to show someone for publishing or whatever, and they say, nah, this is not what we're really looking for, it's okay. Like that's valid. Like you made a game, that's no one can take that away from you, but you can also go back, iterate, add more stuff to it, like change stuff, take that feedback and build on it and send and present it again. Like there's nothing that prevents you from doing that. And a lot of times when people make games for Global Game Jam, because it is such a small game in such a small amount of time, it's not going to be it is not going to be your masterpiece. It is not going to be the thing that your entire game's career is staked upon. So it is okay to go and iterate on it and constantly improve your game, because that's what we all do in the industry anyway. So like don't worry if you don't have commercial success right off the bat. Like statistically you won't, but it's okay to go and make it better and keep improving it, because that's what we all do.
yeah, and even if the game that you make is a total wreck at Global Game Jam, you might also find that you really liked working with those people that you tried to make that game with, and so maybe you're gonna work on something else afterwards and start a whole new team or studio.
Yeah, absolutely. Or you've learned a new skill. Maybe that game idea doesn't go anywhere, but your familiarity now with the new tool set will take you someplace.
Yeah, great points. Thank you. I have a good question here from Twitch. What is the current vision of Global Game Jam next? What are the objectives and what were the most important reasons why the decision was made to hold it at the same time as GGJ? I can either answer some of that or let you all speak to that as well.
I think some of that connects to what was just said about the Global Game Jam. A lot of times it's folks' first experience in the industry, a stepping stone into the industry, and looking at Global Game Jam next and seeing it as an even earlier stepping stone. It made sense to combine those events and try to, in a way, have those kids be jamming at the same time as the industry folks and the higher education students, so that it really does feel like it's a pathway into making games, whether for fun or for your career. We also shifted it to try to grow both in some sense, to sort of double down on this is the event, this is when everyone is jamming, and rather than having the kids jam in the summer later and they're not really counted as part of the main Global Game Jam event, this year we hope that they'll be part of this main event, be part of the number of people who are worldwide making games all at the same time, and that will enable us to grow both events together and the benefit from that mutual time frame.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's also to capitalize on the network of organizers that we have who are already engaged with Global Game Jam. It's hard to sort of get that much enthusiasm and participation for another event in July, August, 6 months later. So rather than trying to rebuild an entire organization around that event, we thought we would take advantage of the one that we currently have that's built for Global Game Jam, and use them to help grow GGJ Next as well. And like Sabrina said, have the GGJ Next participants feel like they're a part of the event as well, and like they'll aspire to join the main GGJ event and go beyond that. Once they get a feel for it and feel like they're all part of the same community, rather than put off to their own event that's not connected to the main event. We have not really a question, but one of our organizers from Venezuela says, site organizer from Venezuela, and from my point of view, GGJ has shaped and is shaping the emerging game dev scene in my country, empowering many creatives. And I think that's a story that's great to hear, and that's exactly what we're trying to do. I don't know if anybody has any comments about that.
Well, thanks for sharing that. It's always good to hear that we're doing something good.
Yeah, I think for me, one of the reasons why I've continued to come back to Global Game Jam as a volunteer and a participant is not only feeling that myself, but hearing that from so many people, the impact that Global Game Jam has on helping to cultivate the industry and the community around the world. That's very special impact, and that's why I get so excited about being part of the organization, because of that impact, the potential, and also what I've heard directly from people saying that they've experienced. So thanks for sharing that comment.
Joseph Olin, who was the previous president of the board, he's from Colombia, correct? Is that right? He's
Yes.
based.
He's based in Colombia now.
Yeah, and head of a game company there. So I think Joseph has been really great at pointing out to us in board meetings about the importance of the emergence of game developers in South America. At least he's made it a lot more apparent to me. So he's been a good leader there.
Yeah, agreed. And I hear stories every time I go to a conference from people that I meet that say, GGJ was their stepping stone, the way that they got into the industry. There was like no games industry to speak of in whatever area of the world that they were from. And a Global Game Jam event happened in their area, and they went and they met someone there that had connections that got them out their start in the industry. And here they are at GDC or Gamescom or whatever, PAX, whatever big games convention years later. And, it was all because they took that chance and went to their first GGJ. I mean, even Nurhan, who's one of our other board members, has a similar story of she was working as a software engineer in banking, and somebody told her about Global Game Jam, and she spent like a month learning Unity and went to the event and had a great time, and totally shifted her career now she's a full-time game programmer, and she met her future partner there. And so that's a really great story, so that's what we're trying to do. And it's great to hear that that's happening for you in Venezuela and other places around the world. Another question from Twitch here. Do you keep track of how many professional games were born from GGJ, or is there a record of how many studies you started after participating in the Global Game Jam? Has research been done? The short answer is sort of. We have like a list of the games that we know of on our website that came from Global Game Jam, but there's a lot that we probably don't know about. We have like a form that people can fill out to keep us updated on games that they've made and do follow-up stories. And Taria, who we mentioned before, who's our director of communications, has been doing community spotlight articles on our website that follow up with people who made games at GGJ and continued those on to bigger and better things. And like JC mentioned earlier, Surgeon Simulator is probably the most well-known of all those. I don't know if anybody has anything else they want to add to that.
I think this is a great question because it does highlight an opportunity for us to have a more cohesive kind of history of like, here are the games that have been made, and this is like, what their origin stories are. Unfortunately for us, we are a nonprofit, like volunteer organization for the most part, except for our the very small team that is dedicated to the day-to-day operations at GGJ. So we are limited in our bandwidth for being able to do this. But that is also why when you do Global Game Jam, we do give you opportunities to stay connected with us, because we do want to know where your game goes. And if you do make the next like really big commercially successful like game jam game, then we want to know about it. Like, we want to celebrate that with you. We have also been doing things like, having, like, we do have this Twitch channel, for example, which you're all watching us on. We have our social media channels, which we mentioned earlier. There are other opportunities to get your game out there and let us know, so we can play it on Twitch, or we can, highlight it. And a lot of things about games that become successful is also in this industry by word of mouth and by marketing. So like, if there is something we can do to help support your game, then I would absolutely love to be able to do that, like through GGJ. So yeah, just let us know if there is something we can do to like highlight what you've done, or you're just needing a push. That's what we're here for.
Yeah, and there is a webpage called Global Game Jam Success Stories on the main website that you can go, and it has the games that we know of recorded. I can't enter it into the chat, but I'm sure we can add that. There also has been research done on Global Game Jam. I think even from the very first year, there was data being collected, and it became the seed. And I'm not super familiar with this, so Tim, I don't know if you can speak to the conference on game jams. I have not attended or been part of that, but that I think started from that research and has grown beyond it.
Yeah, I haven't really participated either, but each year we have a small group that hosts the International Conference on Game Jams, and that's more like a research-based conference that usually used to happen around GDC. I'm not sure. I know they moved it to virtual during the pandemic. But people have the option to submit papers and talks about game jams that they've worked on, or research studies that they have done on game jams, and that happens annually. But yeah, I haven't really participated in that event yet either. But yeah, that's a really good question, and something that we definitely want to follow up more on. I mean, I know even globally we had over 5,800 games made at the jam last year, so like that's almost an impossible number to keep track of. And like, even just at the local version that I run here in Seattle, we had like 60 games, and that's even a lot like to keep track of. So like remembering and keeping track of all the games that like came out of it and went on to be something better is a daunting task, but usually we rely on our site organizers and regional organizers who see good stuff come out of their sites to like percolate that information up to us so we can highlight it on our website. We have had some talks with like game museums about potentially doing some kind of preservation and exhibits on GGJ. Those are ongoing, and hopefully we'll have maybe some news about those in the near future. And another question come in earlier from Charlie. Are you supposed to jam for 48 hours straight, meaning like without taking any breaks or anything? Do I think we can speak to that?
No,
The answer
you
is
should
no.
not.
Yeah. Okay. The short answer is no. The slightly longer answer is, one of the things that Global Game Jam does is, because we are also a stepping stone for a lot of people into the industry, we want to model the behavior and the culture that we want to see in the industry. I know people have talked about crunch a lot for, people making games at, at the industry level. And it doesn't have to start here. Like, we should not be modeling bad behavior. And so you should not be jamming for 48 hours straight. Like, you should make sure your team does not jam for 48 hours straight. Like, make sure you take breaks, take time to eat, drink water, rest, do things so you can function as a normal human being. Like, there's been a lot of studies about crunch and the effectiveness of it in this industry, and it is actually incredibly detrimental to people, not just for the product that they make being actually worse or taking longer because people get tired and make mistakes, but it's also very, very bad for people's mental health and physical health. And it's also the reason why a lot of people leave the games industry and can't make a sustainable career there, because they are in such bad environments. So for something like Global Game Jam, like, we want to make sure that we are setting a good example for the culture that we want the games industry to have. And so, like, do not jam for 48 hours straight is the short answer. But self-care is important. Like, before you are a game developer, before you are a jammer, you are a person and you have needs. So make sure you take care of yourself.
And sleep is part of your jam. Inspiration and renewal of both motivation and creativity comes from sleep. So consider your sleep and getting good sleep during the jam as an important part of jamming well. And conversations with other people and the networking that happens and the synergy that happens, whether or not it's about something that's being made at the jam or something that maybe you'll go on to do later in your community, that's part of the jam. So taking a break to break bread with someone and chat about what you're each working on, even if they're not in your team, and just getting inspiration and motivation from one another and support from one another is part of the jam. So make a plan to eat well and chat and talk to other people, look up from your keyboard or your paper prototyping at the jam, because that's part of jamming well.
Yeah. And I should also point out on GGJ's part, our jam for 2023 is not 48 hours. Like, and our jam for 2022 was not 48 hours. We have extended the time that we have 2 jams, so it spans multiple weekends. So you can jam for like the entire period. You can jam for just one of the weekends. Different sites will do different things that are appropriate for their cultures, but we do want to make it a place where you can jam for as long or as short as you want while still being able to take care of yourself. And this is based directly on some of the feedback we've had about people trying to, pull these all-nighters and whatever. So we want to make sure that we also can accommodate that.
Yeah, just to elaborate on that, we sort of say sites should run for 48 hours, but it's kind of like start to finish of your events. And then even above and beyond that, there's the opportunity now for your site to be more like it's a couple hours a day during that jam week. And particularly for Global Game Jam Next, that's a model that we support if there's like after school programs or other types of organizations that maybe don't have the kids come for a full 2 days, right? But want to have sort of regular ongoing for a week game making with participants. So there's a lot more flexibility. And the 48 hours has always been that, Friday night, then Sunday kickoff, but not intended to be, and everybody's awake and trying to produce on their computer for 48 hours, even if that's when doors open and doors close.
Yeah, great points. And not only look out for yourself, but look out for your teammates and your fellow jammers as well. If you see somebody struggling or pushing themselves too hard, just say, hey, why don't you take a break? And maybe we don't need that feature in the game. Just go get some rest. Or if you're struggling with a bug or something, a lot of times just stepping away and taking a break will help you reset your mind and see it in a different light when you come back. So definitely look out for yourself and look out for everyone else as well, because we want everybody to have a good time and be, rested. So yeah, thanks for those points and good questions. It's another question that I like. Oh wait, that's not the one I wanted. This one. Which game created in the GGJ has surprised you or changed your way of seeing the world?
That is such a good question. I don't know if this game ever got completed, but a few years ago, I got to mentor a student group that was working on a game, and I think the working title of the game was Galactic Cats or something. You had to be, and basically it was a game based in Unity. You had this top-down thing where you played as a bunch of cats, and you got to, and it was like isometric. You got to shoot a bunch of stuff, and it wasn't the game concept itself or anything that was like super mind blowing. It was the fact that this was a group of students who came together with an idea, self kind of organized, and then someone on that team built a fully functional AI system in less than a day in Unity. And it was like in one of the crappy like older versions of Unity. And I just remember seeing this and being like, the kids are all right. Like, we're going to be okay. Like, the future of this industry is good. Like, people are doing cool things. And I don't know, I'm not an engineer, but I do know that AI engineering can be notoriously like finicky and weird. So the fact that like someone was interested enough to just sit down and be dedicated to that and just build this entire like system just to support their team and just make a really good experience for the player was something that was just like, yeah, like I like where games are going. I like where this industry is going. So I don't think it was a game that ever shipped or anything, but it just like that experience of seeing people grow and learn and develop like their skills throughout the jam and take what they had learned and apply it. And this was a game where the people that worked on it continued working on it for like a year after. So it was just really cool to see that and see that growth. And so I don't know if that really answers the question, but that's just like here's a story that warms my heart kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll tell another story that kind of warms my heart. And this happened before I have 2 kids, but this happened before I had kids. Jammer at my local site brought their kids to jam with them. And what they had their kids do was draw everything, all the assets for the game. And it was just a great masterclass in bringing in people into the game making process without burdening them with having to have the skill set. Obviously, was a parent with a child, but I think that sort of, to me, that kind of opened up my eyes of like, we can facilitate game making with new voices and use our tools to sort of bring to life ideas. And it was I can't remember exactly what the game story was, but it was definitely an example of yes and, where the craziness, sort of non sequitur thinking of a young child was brought to life by the power of a professional who could just say, yeah, we'll do that. That's going to happen. I'm going to implement that. And that has always stuck with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Hearing, listening to these stories is just reminding me of so many great memories from GGJs over the years of people who like make alt control games at Global Game Jam and like build a whole piece of hardware in a weekend and like get that working and have like somebody made a whole like surfboard rig for like a Flappy Bird clone and like had it all working by the end of the thing. That was super fun. Like I said, there was the edible games that like just totally changed how I thought about what a game was and like how you could interact with gameplay. And we had somebody like Sabrina said who had their kids come in and do all the artwork for their game. It's just all those kinds of stories at GGJ. And the one I was thinking about was we had an engineer who knew Unreal and really wanted to make an Unreal game, but typically most people at our jams make Unity games, and like they rounded up a group of 5 or 6 people that didn't know Unreal and like taught them Unreal in like Friday night and Saturday morning, and then they made like a fully functional 3D platformer that had like 2 or 3 levels. And one of the people that was on that team I see in our chat right now, so I remember that game as well. So yeah, those are some of the memories that I have from GGJs over the years. Don't see that we have any more questions right now. But I don't know if you'll have any. We're getting close to the end. I don't know if you'll have anything else you wanted to add. Oh wait, we do have something here. Diversifiers, what are they? How are they chosen? And how can I propose new ones? Can the organizers of the venues propose theirs locally? So diversifiers are like an extra challenge to your game making process. Like they can add technical or artistic constraints, or add like an extra challenge to add certain themes, or be an addition to the theme of GGJ. You can propose your own. Right now, actually, we have a form that I will find the link for and post here shortly, where you can propose your own diversifier ideas. And then there's a whole diversifier committee that goes through all the suggestions and picks 3 or so. We have 5 or 6 different categories of like art and tech and accessibility and audio, where we have like, we pick our top 3 favorites from each of those categories. And then we also have sponsored diversifiers, where some of our sponsors can have the opportunity to create their own diversifier to challenge people to use their technology in interesting ways at the game jam. I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to add about diversifiers.
Yeah. If you're interested in diversifiers, also, we do have a section on our website that explains like, here are the examples of ones that we've done in previous years, and they're really fun. So I also am part of the games accessibility SIG. So accessibility is a really important thing to me, and one of the accessibility diversifiers was super great. Like when we get to like talk about them as a community and kind of decide like, hey, what are the things we want to see, and just being able to bring something like that makes games and gameplay like more inclusive and more accessible to people is something that's really, really great. And it's just an opportunity for you as jammers to think about what else can I do to give myself an extra challenge? Like what else can I do to make this game playable by more people? What other things can I do to just throw in something that will like mix up the game a little? And it's just really cool just to see how people take the diversifiers that we have and like put their own spin on it and see what comes out at the end. So yeah, there's a really good, very comprehensive list of them. And yeah, we do have a lot of them that get sponsored. So there are lots of different opportunities for you to get involved in. Like, you can do multiple diversifiers in your one game. That's also fine. So yeah, it's just a fun way to throw in an extra side challenge.
Yeah, thanks for that.
I'll also mention that you can search by diversifier. So if like a particular diversifier is interesting to you, you can go to the webpage and look at the games from past years and just bring up all the games that implemented that diversifier, which, going back to the question of how does Global Game Jam help with innovation in the industry, I think it's a great way to just see a lot of people experimenting with a certain angle on a game making idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we've had some that are like make the game accessible for colorblind people, or only use one button as the input, or only use like spoken language instead of text, or vice versa. Like there's a lot of different options that have come throughout the years, and you can look those up on the history page that we posted earlier that has links to all the diversifiers from over the years, and they're always different. Getting down to the last few questions here. We have one. What are you as a board looking to see more of in the next Global Game Jam?
Personally, I want to see not more of anything I've already seen, but stuff I haven't seen before. I don't know if that's a helpful answer.
I almost want to be like, Felix, can you give us an example of something you haven't seen?
Oh my God, we'll be here until tomorrow. No, I mean, I guess what I want to see more is surprises, things that I'm like, I didn't know that this could be a fun game. Not a
Yeah.
Flappy Bird club is, I guess, what I'm saying.
So for me, one of my absolute favorite things about Global Game Jam is just the fact that it has such a low bar to entry for game making. So I just want to see people try more things. And this is I can't enumerate the list of what are the specific things I want people to try, but I do just want to see more people being like just try new stuff. Like we talked about like mashing up genres before. Like try new game loops, like make more food games. I don't know, like make games and like just I don't know. I'm just like there's a waffle next to me and a pencil. Like make something with that. I don't know. Like do something that you never thought you could do before, or something that you were afraid to do because you didn't think it was going to be successful. Like this is so I guess what I really want to see in the next Global Game Jam is more bravery. Like I want people to experiment and like try new things and just don't be afraid to fail. Like I made Game Jam games before and they're all ugly and crappy, but I made them, and that's the important thing. Like make the thing and have fun doing it. And that's kind of the takeaway I want, is just try things and have fun, and that's going to be the thing that you remember like 10 years down the line.
I'm probably way out on a limb here, but I'm interested in games that might have a different business model. I mean, there are lots of ways to innovate, right? You can innovate with gameplay mechanics, but you can also innovate when you think about, does this have to be a premium game, or is there some other way? I think we haven't really pursued this idea of, again, like I said, maybe on a limb here, but integrating ads better, or somehow showing that there's another way to monetize. And I don't know exactly what that is, but a publisher would be interested in that. They would find that really interesting. And so it's thinking about all the different ways to innovate, I guess, because, as game designers, we tend to focus on gameplay mechanics, but that's not the only type of innovation that will get you attention.
Yeah, coming from very much the business side of things, I can confirm.
I'm excited about seeing more global game, to see where we can take Global Game Jam next, and the elevating of kids making games. I think game making is, analog or digital, has so many important life skills for whatever you go on to do, in terms of how to tackle a problem, how to design for others, how to iterate, how to try out your idea. There's so much there that's really like, those are skills that we need as a species to be investing in. And so I think that I'm excited about that. And then I'm also really excited about more board games and more games that blur the lines. I think as we see AR taking off, there's opportunities to do lots of really interesting things with physical and digital games together, and seeing more sites supporting making board games. And as an entry point, I think analog games, they lower the barriers in different ways. So that's something else I'm really interested to see us as Global Game Jam talk more about, and bring in maybe more of the board game design community, development community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all great answers. And the goal that we have all had is to get somebody in Antarctica to jam at some point in the lifespan of GGJ, so we can have a jam on all the continents, and maybe someday the International Space Station.
Yeah.
And more cakes. People used to make a lot of cakes for GGJ. I want to see that tradition come back now that we can jam in person again. So it's just excited to see what y'all make. Hoping to see more bravery, like you said, more fun, more excitement, more creativity. It's always a great time. We're at the end of our hour here, so thanks everyone for joining us and all the great questions. Thank you, Sabrina, Ariella, Felix, and JC from the board for spending your time answering questions from the from our community today. I really appreciate it. We just opened up Jammer registration on Monday, so you can go to globalgamejam.org and register for a site in your area. If you don't see one in your area, we are still working through a massive queue of site applications. Our regional organizers are hard at work on that, so just keep checking back over the next few weeks, and a site in your area should pop up. And if you don't see one, you can either apply to host one yourself or find the person that usually does and poke them to get the application in sooner than later. So we're not waiting, you're not at the last minute waiting to get it approved. The jam will start on January 30th and run through February 5th this year. We'll be announcing the theme on our Twitch channel here again on January 28th. And then the week before that, this year, we will have GGJ Prep Week, where we'll be presenting content from partners, sponsors, and the community to get people prepared and ready for GGJ this year and to learn everything that you need to learn to have a great time at Global Game Jam. If anybody has any closing comments they want to make, feel free. But thanks for joining us, everyone.
I have to run 2 minutes ago, but I do want to say thanks for all the comments in the chat. I am looking forward to the board games. Maybe it's going to have all of our faces in it because it's a board game. And also, I will play any game with foods and ferrets. Thank you so much. And that's me tuning out. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.